All right, welcome everybody to another edition of the Boardwall Broadcasting Company. We are here tonight with Delethorus to my side. We've got Mel above me and Naz up above D. I want to say thank you to everybody for bearing with us as we had a little bit of a holiday lull, but we are glad to be back. Of course, right before the holidays, we had Caspian himself in for a live stream. That was a delight. Would like to thank him again for stopping into our channel and helping us out and giving all those great question and answers to the community. So if you don't remember, we do have a contest every live stream. We are going to post a phrase in the chat. There will be a document where you can fill out your clever, funny, humorous, or otherwise Elyria related interpretation of the phrase. That phrase this week is, "A new dawn sweeps the horizon of a golden era, blissfully serene." And the winner of that will get either 100 EP or your choice of a villager or guild token. You must be present at the end of the stream when we call your name to claim it. So without further ado, today we are going to be talking about the State of Elyria address, as it's often called, that was just released. It had two major sections. We had 2017, a year of foundations, and then a section on 2018, which we will get to later on in the stream. So 2017 for Soulbound Studios was really about building the foundation and infrastructure of the game, and they made a lot of progress. And so we really want to take the time to give credit to that and see what progress was made. So much deep foundational work was done on the client, on the server, on a support system, and on the very infrastructure to see the project to the end. So Dee, I'd like to turn it over to you to talk about the server foundations and the fact that they did end up ditching Spatial OS. And I know that you have some things to say about that. So without further ado.
Yeah, thank you, Kit. Thank you for the introduction. I'd probably want to rephrase the word and just not call it ditching. I think that, in my chats with Caspian and the studio, there's nothing but mutual respect for each other. I think there were some things that just happened in regards to coding and everything that made it sense to go the way that they went. Nonetheless, I was certainly somebody that was surprised, as from people that were sending me messages in private and everything like that. There were many of the people in the community that that were just wondering what had happened and why the change of direction on that. And so before we go any further on the topic, I want to make it emphatically clear that I'm not a techie, and so that if there are any errors that are made during this particular part of the presentation, they rest fully on my shoulders. I take full responsibility for them, but we just it was something that Caspian had mentioned in the first part of his thread in the year of foundation. So I think it merits at least, a little bit of time to go over it. So earlier today, Caspian had made a post in Discord, and I think Noslim is going to put that image up. I actually don't have Twitch live right now, so I was going to read it, but then I realized I don't see it. So, Noslim, why don't you go ahead and read that for us if you can?
Most engineering is done through the assembly of well-designed, well-tested components, while Spatial had built a platform that was designed to solve the problem of scalable simulations. The problem space of scalable software isn't new. All of the above technologies, Docker, RabbitMQ, and PostgreSQL, it's hard to see in OBS on another screen, but are widely used in scalable software solutions across the world. As experienced game developers, we took technologies widely used in more traditional scalable software systems and applied them to the creation of cost-effective, scalable simulation platform that meets our needs. And you asked the hillbilly that can barely speak English to speak all this tech talk. Yeah, good job there.
You did fine.
Alrighty, cool. Good choice. So again, not being a techie, I still remain a little baffled by it. And so, Caspian was kind enough to take a little bit of time out of his day today and just clarify this a little bit for me, because I was interested, kind of like, what does this mean to us as the community? How does it impact the development of the game? And so we're going to put up now. I cleaned it up. I didn't change the wording, but we created a couple of images. Noslim's going to put the second one up now. Spatial OS 2. This basically shows Spatial OS is just an absolutely amazing company, and they have solutions for so many different things. And this graphic here shows the particular parts of Spatial OS that were going to be being implemented into Chronicles of Elyria, and you can see them as to what's there. Now, if Noslim can put up that third image, we'll actually see what SBS has done in terms of how they're going to be addressing not going with Spatial OS anymore. And so again, it's you can see here that that basically all of the parts have been covered. And so I wanted to find out, because I was curious, just is this stuff that has yet to be put in? Is this stuff that is coming down the road? Is it going to delay the development of the game, etc.? So Noz, if you can put up that final image for me, please. This basically here will show you what actually has been addressed. You can see that the items that have got the green checkbox next to them, they're not just in progress, but they've actually now been implemented. And there's only 3 of them left right now that are, even as we speak, kind of like currently being worked on. So personally, I was very relieved after that chat to see that the majority of these features are already implemented, and that the remaining kind of like couple, 2 or 3, are being worked on. And with there being no visible change to us as the gamers, the end users of this, basically for me, my concerns have been addressed. The techies out there amongst us might still have other questions. Unfortunately, as I said, I'm not qualified to address them, and we'll be able to move on to the next topic. I think Noslim might have had a little bit to add in on the back end of that before we do.
No, I sound like a hillbilly from Alabama because I am one, but I am actually a tech guy. I just couldn't hardly read that font up on that image. But no, Soulbound made some decisions in their development to move from C+ to JavaScript. And early on, when Improbable and Spatial OS was first being introduced to us, they were leaning towards working with JavaScript and the things that happen in technology, during development of different technologies, that one can tend to go one way and another can go another completely separate way, and they're no longer compatible. And that's what's happened in this case. Soulbound has kind of went a different direction, and Improbable is, although initially we're looking forward to doing stuff in JavaScript, they're kind of getting away from that too. So they're having to pull in a lot of other third-party technologies to do what they had hoped Spatial OS would do, and so that's what happens with development in IT. You grow in different directions, and you have to find better solutions. And I still think that Spatial OS is going to do some pretty awesome things once they get up and going, and they're growing just like SBS is, and they just happen to be growing in a different direction, I think, is what happened here. So it's not that big a deal. I think we're still in good hands, and they're going to find solutions to meet all their goals. I have no doubts.
Yeah, and I definitely would agree. I mean, if you look at that list that Dee was sharing, the solutions are there, and I don't think that we have really lost anything other than potentially, gaining the studio some flexibility, potentially moving forward as they're even able to do potentially even more of what they want with it to tailor it specifically to their game. So, and again, I'm like Dee, I have no techie knowledge when it comes to this, but to me, it looks pretty good. So switching some topics, the next thing that was addressed or one of the next things that was addressed in that state of Elyria was lore foundations. Soulbound has done some incredible lore projects recently, and I am really lucky to be on board with some of those lore projects, which we'll talk a little bit about. But as pretty much everybody that's currently involved in the community knows, we just had the Free Kingdoms of Elyria event. And with that, they rolled out a really awesome lore video. And this was just the first taste of what the community got to participate in as far as contributing lore to the community. And obviously this video here was made by Soulbound, but the ideas that went into it, many of those ideas did come from the community. And on top of that, we are starting to see more of the world that they're building. We're starting to see more of the culture of the tribes. We're starting to see really the richness of the religions that are practiced by the tribes. And awesome community projects are being led. Serpentius is helping to oversee, these groups of lore makers coming together for the servers to help create the backbone of the lore that is going to be fleshed out. And as I said, I am involved in that project, and I can say it's so awesome to see that Soulbound is allowing all of these players from different communities to actually come together and begin to create storylines that are going to be based in Elyria. On top of that, we saw the religions, but we also got to see some of the celestial bodies that will be in game, and it's not just a moon, or in this case, two, in the sky. We actually have lore that ties in with them. We have these rich cultural celebrations that vary depending on what religion you are in Elyria. So the lore is just truly awesome in this game, and I can't wait to see, how much more that the community builds, and how much more the studio allows us these opportunities to continue creating lore. And I think it's just an incredible opportunity to get to work. I see Kenrick in the chat. Kenrick is an absolute pleasure to work with from Kairos. It's so cool to get to work with other kingdoms. So moving on, though, because I could talk about lore forever, and we don't want me to do that. Delethris, this kind of ties in. We were just talking about the lore building, but next comes the world building. And we do have some maps that we have seen Caspian post, or a demo map that we've seen him post in channel, and some tribe breakdowns. So what do you have to say about the proposed king and tribe distribution?
Alrighty, let me just kind of like piggyback a little bit on what you were saying about the lore. I think as most people within our particular community of the Kingdom of Borderwall know, I thoroughly support lore, even though I don't get involved in it too much personally myself. And just what I'm seeing the studio do, what Soulbound is doing in terms of involving the community on this large of a scale into crafting the lore, and it'll be happening on the other servers, on NA West, on Europe and Oceania as well. It's just it kind of like, I don't know, it's kind of like it's a testimony to kind of like just how much they really are building this for the players, and not kind of like just kind of like trying to create a game that they think will be a fad and they can make a quick buck on kind of thing. It really is being built for us. And I really get the feeling that it's, that their passion for this comes through, and it's a sharing of that passion that is, for me, very, very unique. Moving on to kind of like the map building process, I've typically been looking at the map, and in fact, we've kind of like held our own kingdom and duchy and county selection exercises based upon that round map that was being used most of the time as reference for now. And so I have to confess that I was a little bit mixed, but everything kind of like ends up being positive for me on it. The the kind of like dealing with kind of like the bit that kind of like seemed a little bit negative for me was I was personally a little bit disappointed to see it all on one continent. I had wanted to see kind of like these nice archipelagos and kind of like large land masses that might hold one or two different kingdoms, etc. And I think this was more to do with, how the biomes were going to be set out or how we were envisioning them. And I think most people are kind of like aware of the issues and the discussions that, again, were going on both in public and in private about, having two kingdoms that had two tribes and then having the other four kingdoms that just had one tribe. And I think that what they have done here, in terms of having anywhere between 2 to 4 tribes available per kingdom, and understand that with those 2 to 4 tribes, you do get the transitional biomes between them. So if you might be, kingdom number 1, and your neighbors are kind of like kingdom number 2 and number 3, you're going to get some of the transitional biomes from neighboring with kingdoms number 2 and number 3, which the tribes in kingdoms number 2 and number 3 will be able to live in as well. So overall, I was very pleased to see how they tackled this. I'm loving kind of like the flexibility. It really takes away the concern of being the last kingdom to pick, because even though you don't have a choice in the pick, the last choice itself will have choices within it, if that makes sense. So, people aren't being pigeonholed into kind of like little boxes or anything like that. The Again, going on to this world building and kind of like the map selection and everything like that. I mean, how freaking amazing is it for when you again consider the scale of this project and how many players are going to be on each server, that we're not given, hey, this is your map and this is the map and it's going to be the same map on NA East, NA West, EU and Oceania. They're not even going and saying, hey, here are 4 maps, this is the one for NA West, NA West, etc. They're making 25 freaking maps. And then we as the community on each server get to choose, well, this is the one that we think is going to suit us best on our server. I mean, talk about unheard of. I mean, I can't think of any MMO that has this kind of following of a community and has this kind of an ambitious scale involving its community members on this level. To me, it's kind of it's phenomenal. We're all going to get to vote and choose, and not everybody's going to be happy, and that's just a part of it. One of the things that has always appealed to me about Chronicles of Elyria right from the get-go was Caspian's phrasing that this is a game where it's going to be fair, but it's not going to be equitable. And if you don't like something, you either shut up and accept it, or you go out and do something in game to change it. But it's on you. So, moving on with that, I think that pretty much takes care of that topic.
Awesome. Yeah, I just posted the other aspect of the world building was they've been doing so much work on the environments. So not only are we getting to see what a map could look like, but we're getting to see what the game might actually look like if we were in those different zones. I posted a screenshot in the chat if anybody's interested in looking at the swamp biome. Not that I'm partial to that one or anything. But thank you for that, Dee. So 2018 was the second half of this journal that was released by Caspian. And he explained that if 2017 was all about building the foundation and the support beams, then 2018 was all about the framing and the siding. So if we're looking at this as a metaphorical house, we're really starting to get into something we can live in now. And that is going to be, launching into these awesome platforms of Elyria and KOE eventually. But we also have some really awesome events coming up that are really going to allow us to get into the game in a different way. So Nazim, would you mind talking about some of those events? We've got things like the organizational fair coming up, the map selection and domain settlement selection. So what can you tell us about that?
Yeah, the organizational fair is something that our favorite community leader, Serpentius, he told me not to say that, but I'm going to say it anyway. Along with organizers such as Cineric and Needletail and several other community members that have been pretty successful in other games, running guild fairs and such, are working very closely with SERP. Couple months ago to ensure that this event is something that all of us will want to attend and be involved in, and something we'll remember. But what they're doing is they're creating an event for the community to highlight communities within COE. And so that gives each of us tools to recruit other players. Almost all of us are little mini communities in of ourselves, so I'm a part of Boardwall, but we have our duchy that's a separate community in a sense, and in that community we have little county communities, and then little settlement communities, and then guilds in those settlements. And so this sort of thing would be a good tool for all of us involved to bring new players and attract new people to our individual settlements, not just on a kingdom level, but on individual duchy, county, settlement, and guild levels. So the fact that the studio is working with the community to put something like this together is pretty awesome. And I understand that my voice is terrible as it is, and it's all crackly, and I'm getting some static on my mic tonight, but I can't fix that, so y'all just bear with me. Map selection, we've already heard about that a couple of weeks ago. SBS is hinting at the idea of procedurally generating a handful of maps. 25 I think was the max number I heard at one point. But as players, we're going to be involved with voting on which map we would like to see on our server, which is huge. No developer in any game that I can think of, and I say it time and time again, has allowed this much player involvement in the development of their game. But we're going to be instrumental in voting on what we want to see on our servers, what types of maps we want to see on our servers. And obviously, the map that gets the most votes wins, and that's what we'll see on our individual servers. With domain and settlement selection, not a lot of news there, but that it's coming. It's coming, this year. What's exciting about that is it cements these communities that we're talking about. So everybody will be, they'll be committed to their liege, and you'll know who your vassals are, and they'll know what tribe they're going to be focusing on, because they'll know where they're going to be in the world and what their biome is going to be. And that's something we haven't known. Apparently the static's gone now, so I can talk a lot more. It's great. But that's something we haven't known. And all these communities that we've been building, we've had to build them in a community-centric way. Well, now we can start to focus on those individual aspects that we've all been looking for, but have not allowed ourselves to get too excited about, because we don't we want to keep our expectations in check, and want to make sure that we're focused on the right thing, which is building our community. But now we can focus on those finite things, because they're going to be clearly defined as we move forward, which is exciting news.
Absolutely. So with that, we're starting to get into the real meat of the game. And one of the first things that we're going to be able to get our hands on, oh man, I'm so excited, is the character creation and the Akashic record. Mel, what can you say about this because I mean, I have so much I could say, but I want to turn it over to you.
All right. Well, so when I first saw that they were doing this, I got really excited because I was already really excited after seeing some of the character models and sculpts they've done for the Dross and Genoa. And I think everyone is really excited to see that. And so now, hearing that they're doing the character creation and the Akashic Records project, we're actually going to get to play around with our the characters we want to make, what they look like, how we want to mix the bloodlines, if we want to mix the bloodlines, and we can kind of actually see all that in action. And I think that'll be really fun for the RPers who are really interested in actually getting a kind of visible representation of characters they could be. And really just everyone, because I'll be honest, when I get a new game, I spend an embarrassing amount of time in the character creation part of it, just playing around and getting it perfect. And I think that's just something that everyone's going to have a ball with. You know, we don't have the game, but we can, at least knock that part out. So when it comes around, I won't be wasting hours of my life planning all that out. But, you know, I have to say though, naming is something, and I know this isn't strictly a part of the character creation and Akashic Records, but naming's always the part that takes me the longest on a character creation. And thankfully, we will also have the name generator to go with the character creation, so everyone can really just plan out their characters as soon as this is released and just start playing around and having a good time.
Yeah, I mean, I was so pumped. That was actually my question to Caspian in the last live stream we did, where he was our guest, and I snuck a question in there. I said, "Are we going to get our hands on the character creator?" And he said that we just might before the actual game. So I'm pumped. I'm just as excited, and I will absolutely waste hours anyway, even if I get to play with it ahead of time. So the next thing I wanted to talk about.
Before you transition to that, Kit,
Yeah.
it's very important and on topic. We just hit 200 subscribers or followers, I should say, on our 6th episode. So that's good news. So yay, hand clap and pat on the back all around. Good job, guys.
Yay, awesome. Thanks guys for watching and subscribing. So going back to the Akashic record, I have heard some people in my own settlement talking about the ability to put their stuff, to see their stuff. Do you have any ideas about what you might do with that, Mel? Like visually?
Well, I'm gonna have a lot of fun with it. I'll tell you that. I love this stuff. This is my favorite part, is all the art, and I can't wait to see what styles of furniture they have for us to make. What even the creation possibilities for that will be. I mean, it's really giving us kind of a sneak peek into what we can actually do in Expo, and it's it's basically, to me, it's like its own kind of like mini game. It's like a COE simulation kind of thing, and even being able to see, your pets. We haven't seen the phoenix pet yet. At least I haven't. Correct me if I'm wrong, but yeah, just actually visually seeing all this incredible art that I'm sure everyone is working so hard on at the studio. That's kind of the biggest thing for me.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that. I think our opinions pretty much well aligned here. The other thing I wanted to talk about, of course, was Vox Elyria. And oh my gosh, the studio has been releasing like every couple of hours, it seems like. Serpentius posts in the media channel a new, absolutely adorable Vox Elyria image. And I have been loving those. But not only is Vox Elyria going to be super cute, but it's also going to be very functional. And part of what they are going to be doing at the studio is rolling out features in Vox Elyria that we get to test out. And they are planning to do this in 7 chunks. And I am not going to go through every single chunk right now because I would be reading for the next 10 minutes because they're just doing so much with it. But some of the things I'm really excited about are pretty right away. Release 2, they're going to be rolling out aspects of character creation. So hopefully that means we're actually going to see what that's going to look like pretty quick. And then release 3, we're going to start to see crafting. We're going to start to see identities. Release 4, we're going to really start to see the artificial intelligence for the animals and creatures and NPCs, which is going to be awesome. Combat's going to be spread throughout the releases. So hopefully we'll see maybe different combat systems or them implementing different weapons or styles or something. By release 5, we actually get to start experimenting with the story engine. That's awesome to be able to explore that in Vox Elyria. And then by release 7, we get into some of the really specific stuff like crime and punishment and things like transportation. So I am just so pumped for Vox Elyria. I think it's going to be not only a cute platform to maybe do some role playing in, hint, role players, but to explore the environment because it's going to match right up with the game and be able to start exploring those systems. It's going to kind of have something for everybody, regardless of what you're into. So that is awesome. And that's going to be like right around the corner. We're almost there. You know, the studio's already got the friends and family testing it, and we're getting all of this art released. So it's, I mean, I can feel it. I can taste it. It's right there. So before I go off on a long rant, the state of the studio, Delethris, would you please tell us about the state of the studio?
Yeah, this was I'll comment on a thread that Caspian posted a couple of days ago. I don't think it's been any secret that over the last year or so that the SBS was looking at, getting an outside investor, possibly a publisher, because they did not foresee that they would receive so much funding from us as a community. And so the idea was, I think, was initially for the Kickstarter to gain around about $900,000. I might be off on the number, but I think that was the number mentioned, with which they could bring a kind of like a product that potential investors or publishers could see, learn about the game, and say, wow, yeah, this is great. We're on board with it. We'll support you. Unfortunately, most publishers, and this is understandable, most publishers or investors are basically interested in only one thing, and that's a return on their investment. And so they don't like risk. They don't like innovation. They don't like change. What they want is the same old, the same proven things and mechanics, loot boxes, cash shops in game, etc., that help generate revenue. And they will change where they can and bring back to the mainstream any kind of features in a game that they think is too risky. Well, I think, again, part of the passion of this community, and certainly the passion of the studio, is to push that envelope, is to be risky, is to bring out features that, whereas each and every one might not be unique in and of itself, although many of them are, is that no other game at this moment in time is being as ambitious as Chronicles of Elyria is. And with that comes an inherent risk. I don't normally invest or back games prior to launch. I just, it's like, wow, it's a risky thing. I'll wait till the game's out, etc. But, from what I studied about the studio and the game and the concepts and everything, it was definitely, this is something that I'm willing to not just back, but to back relatively heavily, because I think it's worthwhile doing, to push that envelope and see, if it can be a success. And so what has happened is SBS got to the situation where, look, it's clear we're not going to find a publisher that's risky. If we trim some of our costs, which unfortunately involved a couple of SBS employees, my understanding is literally it was kind of like less than a handful, is that because of the phenomenal success we've had as a community raising funds for Soulbound Studios, that they can actually, for the time being and the foreseeable future, carry on developing the game the way that Soulbound Studios wants it and the way that we as a community want it. And to me, this is nothing but a win-win situation at the moment. I think, the studio needs to be applauded for making what I think is a difficult decision, but I think is the correct decision. And the entire community needs to be applauded for, for being able to support Soulbound, to put them in this financial situation where they can make this decision in the first place instead of having to compromise their development. And that's pretty much all I have to say on it. I mean, for me, it's just such a positive thing to hear that we're not going to have changes that basically, and I'll watch my French here, that basically screw up the game for us and kind of like, oh wow, okay, it's nothing like we thought it was going to be. So I'll end it on that note.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I won't watch my French here. There's a lot of people that want to make a negative out of a positive. And to be honest, they don't know what the hell they're talking about. So, I mean, any number of scenarios could have happened here. Caspian said that they let a couple employees go. It's not our business to determine why they may have showed up for work late too many times. Who knows? But I like to think that it goes back to that development timeline and how in development, you need to change assets from time to time because you're no longer focused on certain things. And I think it, just so possibly could have happened at the time where they decided to heavily focus on crowdfunding because it's working. And the longer they hold out in crowdfunding, like you said, the less of a chance we have of foreign parties coming in and saying, no, you need to change this or you need to change that. So the longer they hold out, the better. I think they're doing very well for themselves. But let the naysayers do what they are going to do because they're going to do it, and there's nothing you can do about it. But I think their head's in the right direction, and they're turning out an awesome product. We see it every day. So,
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'd like to quickly chime in on that regarding the naysayers. Warren Buffett, who is pretty much acclaimed as being the most successful investor, if not in the world, certainly in the United States. Some lunch hours with him are auctioned off for $1 million just for somebody to sit and chat with him and pick his brains for that time. There was an individual that approached Warren Buffett, I think it was about 14, 15 years ago, and pitched to him this amazing idea that he thought was going to be very, very successful. And Warren Buffett examined it. He did all his due diligence, checked into it, and he said, you know what, I'm going to pass on you. That individual happened to be Jeff Bezos, and the company that he founded was Amazon. And so even kind of like professional naysayers and very intelligent, smart, informed people don't always, make the right call. It's what powered Jeff Bezos through that. And, I'm not necessarily comparing Jeff Bezos to Caspian, but what is in common is a vision, a goal, a roadmap of how to get there, the ability to make tough decisions, and the passion to see it through. And that, it won't guarantee success, but it certainly helps kind of like, make it more likely to happen than somebody, I just had an idea, but maybe it's not a good one. And thank you, done, I'm done.
So we are coming up on about 40 minutes, and we don't want to take too much of your time. But Nazlim, I'm wondering if you can do us a quick overview, because this is coming right down the pike, is account merging.
I don't know about quick. I'll give it a spin. So I don't know if you guys can see my graphic here very well. It looks like crap to me. Maybe it looks better on the... Yeah, it looks a little better on the stream. But for account merging, we have all been hearing that it's coming. Well, it's coming. Maybe next week. I don't know. But SBS is actively working on that right now. Caspian's been talking about it in Discord today. That's his number one goal right now. He wants to get that accomplished. And we have some of this older information here from the Kickstarter anniversary. And so it pretty much lays out, what we are expecting with the account merge process. Obviously he's released some new speculative ideas and some stuff that they're working on today. I won't really get into that, but I know that the studio has been working pretty hard on this. I've been seeing it. Can't really get into that. Never mind. But we've been seeing a lot of effort put into account merging, and we know it's coming soon. What we don't know is exactly how it's going to be rolled out. We can assume that a lot of stuff is not going to stack. Certain things are not going to stack. I assume, even though it's not been said publicly yet, I don't think. I assume that your layaways are going to need to be paid off in order to merge those accounts. I assume that merging is going to come out and it's going to start, and it's going to have a start date and it's going to have an end date, and there's going to be some people that have accounts that are currently on layaway that are going to run into issues and need to quickly pay those off if they still intend to merge. But there's other options out there. Speaking of, because keep bouncing around back and forth, but you did mention, to go through this pretty quickly, so there's a transfer of all titles and lands. That's another option. If for whatever reason you don't hit the merge window, or you're off on a vacation in Hawaii or something on the beach and you just missed the memo, there's going to be other options that come up. And for me, transfer of titles and lands is one of the closest things to merge. If for some reason we can't get a layaway paid off in time, or we miss the memo or the timeline or the window for merging. What we don't know with transfers of titles and lands is what happens with the land. Again, I'm going to assume, because it hasn't been said publicly anywhere, that it's going to be handled in a similar fashion to merging, in that the recipient of a transferred title is going to go in at selection and select two domains side by side and handle it in the same fashion. But with settlements are going to be a little different, in that at one time it was said that they would double in size, but they're going to increase by a set number of, I think it's nine parcels per settlement pledge that you merge. And so obviously if you have a count pledge or a due pledge, then you would get more. I don't recall right off the top of my head what those are, but some information's coming soon. And so a lot of the concerns that we've had, how's this going to happen, or because everybody wants to know exactly how it's going to roll out. They want to plan. I'm spending my money. I want to know exactly where it's going and what it's going to, and when I need to have it paid off, and all that good stuff. But I know the studio is working real hard on it, and it's coming. Look forward to that next week, and all those concerns should be put to rest pretty quickly.
Absolutely, and just for those of you who aren't familiar with games in development by chance, remember that everything is subject to change, and dates are flexible, and some of the things about merging, that have been published before, could be changed, because they are always getting studio feedback. So that is something to keep in mind. Hey, Naz, can you transition us back? I don't know if you did or not. Anyway, so we are about to wrap up our stream. Thank you. And we do have the contest. I'm going to be announcing the winner momentarily here. And hopefully they will still be with us. Mel, I'm going to put you on the spot because I didn't get to hear your lovely voice enough. And I am wondering if, while I am going to check on who won, if you would be willing to talk about what you are most looking forward to, or alternatively, what favorite piece of concept art or environmental art that they have put out recently.
All right, let's see the nerd. Let's see the nerd and the artist in you. Come on.
Yep.
I know you got.
She's thinking.
She's muted.
Oh. Why are you muted?
It's okay. You all missed me swearing, so it's all good. As soon as I realized I was muted, typical. Okay, this is a difficult one. Because I love the concept art. I do. Probably because it's because I'm more of a 3D artist, so I really appreciate people that can do such detailed concept art as they've had. I mean, even I think one of the oh my god, the tavern brawl scene was so elaborate and so fun. I think it really kind of captured the kind of essence of the community and just all the fun I assume everyone's having over there making all this. But having said that, I do have a soft spot for all the 3D art as well. So I think I'd have to say the Genoa and Dross character models we were treated to. Those are amazing and they make me want to jump in ZBrush and start sculpting more um, and just start working on characters more because I've been doing a lot of environments lately. So I'd have to say those are probably though I mean they're all tied with the environments and terrible decisions. Um, but yeah, it's a toss up.
Yeah, the environments are gorgeous. I've been really impressed, especially with like their grass art. It's so good. I never thought I would be so impressed with grass, but I am. All right, so before we end, thank you all for tuning in. And please feel free to jump over to the official COE Discord voice channel. After we end the stream, we do have a little closer video too, if you want to stick around to watch it, because it's pretty rad. But the winner, who is hopefully sitting here in chat still, is Gibby0825, who said, a new era is coming over Elyria, one which is going to have unprecedented growth in culture and technology. And that's kind of what I was thinking of when I came up with the phrase for the week. So you kind of read my mind. So congratulations, Gibby. You need to get in contact with Delethris, who will get in touch with you for how to get your either token or EP. Remember, we do have a contest every time we stream our regular broadcast, so please feel free to tune in each time we're on for that opportunity. And thank you again. Without further ado, I hope everybody has a good night, and hopefully we will catch some of you in chat.
Take care, everybody.
Bye.